I always had a fascination with the past. I think that's the reason why museums and my own coin collection often provided some kind of refuge to me when I felt like disconnecting from all the distractions and the noise of the world. And something that always made me curious about museums was wondering, apart from what's on display, what was happening behind the scenes? What kinds of amazing artifacts are back there? What kinds of coins are being conserved? I get that same feeling when entering a coin shop, wondering what they don't have on display. At a certain point in my life, I would go to London for work, every 2 months or so, and every time I was there, I religiously paid a visit to the British Museum. They have around 8 million objects in their collection, yet only 1%, around 80,000 objects are on display. So picking what to show to the public is certainly no easy task. But it's an important one, and I believe we need to do the same with our coin collections. More than accumulating coins, we must curate a collection. In this video, I would like to share with you 3 very easy and useful techniques that museum curators use almost to a daily basis. Actually, not only museum curators, the subject of art curation always interested me as well. What I was really curious about is how do art curators decide what pieces of art to purchase for their collection? How do they decide what to put on display and what to keep in their stock? And how to translate these 2 realities, those of museums, how do they tell a story about the past with objects, those of art collections, how can someone communicate a message or even a feeling through objects, and finally, how to apply these 2 sets of techniques to our coin collections, so it's not just, as I said, an accumulation of coins, but an exhibition, something that tells the story of civilization through their coins, something that gives us a glimpse of how our forefathers made art, and maybe a little bit about ourselves, about what we think is beautiful or collectible. The inspiration for this video came from a fantastic book I recently read, written by a museum curator called Glenn Adamson, called Fewer, Better Things. And in it, he goes through the process of picking new pieces for a collection, the maintenance phase, the active everyday curation of a collection, and finally the act of coming up with an exhibition, of communicating something through objects. So let me share with you the 3 steps of curating a collection and how I have been applying it to my own coin collection. So the first of these tips is to always buy with a purpose. How does a museum curator decide what to acquire for their collection? They cannot just simply look at a wonderful sculpture at the art market or at another museum and say, "This marble bust is fantastic, we should have it in our collection." The first question that they ask themselves, and I think this translates perfectly to each one of us as collectors, is how does this object fit within my collection? If I was a museum, if my values, my tastes in history and art were the guiding principles of an institution, does the inventory of this personal institution of mine, does it have a gap in its collection? Does that object that I'm considering, does it justify itself? Does it fit in this gap? Would its presence in my collection change the tone of my original guiding principles? Or is it aligned to them? This technique of emulating a museum is very useful to people like me who see something shiny and pretty and immediately feels the impulse of buying it. I'm sure many of us collectors feel that urge. You have probably seen that typical scene in children's cartoons when a character is having a moral dilemma and over his shoulders there's a little devil asking him to succumb to his desires and an angel telling him to do the right thing. I get that feeling often. It's just that over one shoulder the devil is carrying shopping bags telling me to buy my 20th drachma of Alexander the Great, and on the other the angel is a little museum curator with a long beard holding a book with an inventory of my coins, questioning me if grabbing my 5th drachma of Alexander will really help much in my collecting goals. Basically, Any coin I acquire needs to fit these internal guidelines. After all, these are my internal forces that push me to keep collecting these coins in the first place, and that's what will probably keep me enamored with coins and art in the future. So I invite you to do this same kind of deep thinking before every single purchase. Listen to that little angel, listen to the little museum curator. The second tip is to develop a technique called active storage, and it is very useful to everyone who is concerned by the number of coins they have in their collection. It's an important tool we can use to constantly keep an eye on what we have, and it helps us compare what we currently have with the overall direction our personal tastes are going towards. The guiding principles of that personal museum I mentioned previously. And of course, this helps you make sure that the collection we have keeps in line with these important guidelines. To better illustrate this, I want you to think about your wardrobe. You know when fall and spring come and you need to do the switch between your summer clothes and your winter clothes? When the weather is starting to warm up and you don't need your thick jackets anymore, so you just move them to some storage area in your house. This way your wardrobe only has your summer clothes and it's easier to find everything. You didn't throw away your winter jackets, it's just not the season for wearing them. I think just like the seasons change and we react to these changes, our collections also go through seasons. Nowadays it's very easy to keep a registry of photos of your coins in your computer, and that's a very good habit to have an organized inventory. But it can also lead you to end up enjoying your collection mostly through a computer screen. I am a strong proponent of you being in constant contact with your coins. You should be in the presence of what you collect. You should handle your coins very frequently. I enjoy opening my coin cabinet, having a good long look at the trays. You will have your own way of organizing your collection. As an example, I typically organize my trays in a way that each one represents a certain time period and a certain topic. So I might have a series of trays on Roman emperors, but one tray will be from the Julio-Claudian dynasty, another will be from the Flavians. Then I have one for archaic Greece, classical Greece. You get the idea. What I will then do is to have an overall look at all the coins first, and then zoom in. I'll pick up a coin, look at it, revisit the things I find interesting about it, try to connect with it in some sort of way. That's what active storage is all about. It encourages you to be in contact with your coins, so you know where your collection is going towards. And based on how often you see yourself being attracted to a part of your collection, it ends up developing some sort of hierarchy. What part of your collection are you seeing yourself revisiting more often? Circling back to the winter and summer clothes analogy, which season of your collection are you currently living through? It's not that you will immediately get rid of an entire part of your collection because you aren't picking up its coins and studying them every day, but this is a highly important exercise of self-reflection. Where's my collection going? Am I spending my resources wisely in curating this collection? Am I maybe moving on a certain niche? If I see a part of my old collection hasn't been visited for a very long time, have I moved on from this type of coin? Shouldn't I maybe consider selling these coins, freeing up that capital for something else that I do enjoy more, and handing them over to the next collector, to its next steward? You would be surprised with how many of us just sit on top of piles of stuff we don't have a use for, simply because we are unable to let it go. We are not immutable, we are not eternal. Everything is in a constant state of flux, and so should our collections be in this state of impermanence. And finally, the third technique is organizing your own exhibition. Of course, you're not going to open your own museum, but imagine for a moment that a world-class museum, for some reason, was interested in making an exhibition of your coins. How would you do it? More importantly, Would you be able to tell a story with your coins? Would a visitor coming to see your collection, would that person leave the museum thinking they learned or they experienced something new that day? What I find fascinating about this third technique is that it actually shows how democratic coin collecting is. So let me elaborate. I was having a conversation with another collector and his taste of collecting was very unusual to me. He only collects coins in absolutely mint state condition. The coins need to be absolutely pristine. The surfaces need to be impeccable, very solid metal without any signs of corrosion, no signs of post-mint damage. The highest points of the design, those that would get in contact with someone's hands when handled, therefore the first ones that would wear out, these needed to be absolutely flawless. And I knew this guy enjoyed history very much, just like I do, so I asked him if he didn't feel like this was a missed opportunity of collecting so many historically relevant coins, because most coins have at least some kind of wear. They are thousands of years old after all. Of course, there was also the problem of price constraints. Truly mint state coins are rare and very desirable, so he really pushed his monthly budget to the limit with every single new coin he bought. And his answer was fascinating. The point was, he understood the historical significance of coins and the fact that people are willing to forgive wear on their coins so they have a piece of history in their possession. He was fully aware that he was letting a lot of really interesting coins pass. He also understood the matter of style on coins, that coin dies were made by hand, and sometimes you can come across a coin that is worn, but it was made by such a talented artist, it was such a wonderful looking coin that despite the wear, the coin is still very visually appealing. And he also understood that sometimes he would pick a coin made in inferior style, but it was, once again, in mint state condition. And he told me, Leo, the point is, I know that's weird, but I absolutely love the fact that these things have reached our days in such good condition. I am fascinated about the historical facts that led people to hoard these coins as soon as they were made. I'm fascinated about how ancient coins were made, how certain signs of a handmade coin show up on these coins, the flow lines showing the displacement of the metal during the striking. He loved the shape of the flange, how it developed cracks, stress marks, small imperfections that were a result of the striking process. He enjoyed the sharpness of the image, and most of all, he loved the fact that for some reason, for some stroke of fate, this tiny little metal disc managed to travel all these years, basically untouched by human hands, uncorrupted by the forces of nature. And yet, here it is, pristine in his collection. It is a miracle. So, more than coins, he collected miracles. And that really blew my mind. What I initially thought was a frivolous, superficial search for just high-grade coins, a show of vanity, and a wasted opportunity to collect more interesting coins, was actually a very valid, deeply personal reason for why this guy collected. And if he was asked to organize his own exhibition, he would be perfectly able to do it. He collects miracles. He would be able to explain why his collection looks the way it does, why it has the coins it has, why these coins are appealing to him and should be appealing to you. And I invite you to ask yourself these same questions. Could you organize your own exhibition? Would you be able to set up your coins on a display, have a person come up to them and explain to them, maybe someone who's completely ignorant on coins, all of the reasons to be of your collection? Why is it the way it is? Why the coins are organized in this way? There are no wrong answers. All the reasons are valid. You can just do it because they are pretty, because they tell a story, because you collect, I don't know, animals on coins and you only collect these. It is such a wonderful thing when a collection makes sense, when it speaks despite not having a mouth. The message I want to send to you with this video is that more than collecting, you should be curating your collection. This is not a story about why you should slow down or that I'm telling you to purchase less. It's about thinking and feeling before making a purchase. It's purchasing the right thing. It doesn't matter in whatever quantity, as long as it enriches your life and that your collection becomes a reflection of who you are. I think by practicing these techniques, you will get more enjoyment of your collection. You will certainly end up with an asset that should be more valuable compared to a mere accumulation of coins, and it will enrich you. It will grow in size, in quality, in its beauty. It will become a finely curated collection, just like you will become a finely curated person with it. And by the way, if you want to learn more about coin collecting and curate your own amazing collection, why don't you join my newsletter, where I share valuable tips on how to collect ancient coins. Also, make sure to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss new content. Alright, I hope you enjoyed it, happy collecting, and I'll see you soon. Let me give a special thank you to all of my amazing channel members and Patreons for their generous support. This channel would not be the same without your help. And if you would like to be part of this list, have early access to my videos when they are uploaded to YouTube, and a series of other perks, make sure to check out my Patreon page and my members tab on YouTube. Thank you very much.